What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. We are back today with another live Sunday show. I am happy to be here with you guys. I've talked to probably with a lot of you guys actually on Twitter throughout the week about the stuff going on in my life with my dog and everything. He's home. He's doing awesome. So thank you guys for all your support. Looking forward to answering some questions for you guys today. Going to answer as many as I possibly can. I'm also going to be talking about the injuries. That's where we're going to start, just because that's basically where a lot of the questions are going to come from. So let's start right at the top with Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, I do expect him to play in this game. He leaked something on his Twitter account, I think it was yesterday or the day before, talking about how it's good to be back and that he'll see us on Sunday. And then that post was deleted. I'm guessing the Jags just didn't want him to put it out there. Leonard Fournette was close to playing last week, so I don't think that this is a stretch by any means. I think that they waited it out with Leonard Fournette, and if he was inactive, if he wasn't ready to play a full complement of snaps, I don't think that he would be even in the lineup. I think he would be inactive, so I do think he's coming back this week. I would start him as usual. One of the players that I am more concerned about, it has to do with Matt Breida. So Matt Breida has a hyperextended knee, and that's never... it's never a good thing, obviously, for a running back. It forced him to leave the game, and it was a non-contact injury, which forced me. I really thought it was an ACL when that happened, but he came back into the game later just for a couple plays. He was limited in practice, and then he said in an interview during this week, he said that basically it's a long season, and I know that I need to be healthy. So I don't know if they're going to play him a whole lot. They might have him active just because, in case they need him. But this game against the Chargers, it should turn into a blowout, and that might make Matt Breida someone who's kind of just sitting on the bench because they don't really want to put him at risk. So I think Kyle Juszczyk is a weird, off the wall, if you're playing in a deeper league and you need someone to start in a flex spot, just to throw in there, Kyle Juszczyk might actually pan out. I think he's going to catch at least 4 or 5 balls in this game, which tells me it's in PPR formats, that's at least a high floor. So think about that. Approach with caution with Matt Breida. I don't want to start him if I have another good option. Marlon Mack, hamstring strain. This has been going on since preseason. Marlon Mack he's obviously not built to handle a big workload in the NFL. So as of right now, we should just consider Marlon Mack just someone that either on the waiver wire or you have him on your bench in really deep leagues, but it doesn't seem like he's going to play here. They did call up a running back from the practice squad. It just seems like this is a Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines week. Jordan Wilkins, I'm not interested in playing him against Houston. I think he's just a mediocre talent, and I think he's shown that. The offensive line hasn't blocked as well as they'd hoped, but they're missing both starting tackles, so that's never going to help either. But Nyheim Hines should be playable in PPR formats. I actually think he's flex playable this week. I think they need to get the ball out quick. I think we saw the Giants last week show how to do that against the Texans. So up next, we have Randall Cobb. This is an interesting one, and this is one where we kind of have to wait and see until the inactive list comes out, and that should be coming within a half hour or so. We'll try and let you know on the show when this stuff does happen. But Randall Cobb popped up on the injury report with a hamstring injury late in the week. It wasn't even earlier, so when a hamstring pops up late in the week, it's probably unlikely that Randall Cobb is going to play this game. It was actually a really, really good matchup for him, too, against the Bills, because Tre'Davious White is going to match up with Devontae Adams for the majority of the time, which... it meant Geronimo Allison and Randall Cobb should have had decent days. But it seems like I would have other plans in order for Randall Cobb because I don't think he's playing this week. That's what I personally believe. Again, we'll find out the inactive soon enough, but be prepared to be without Randall Cobb. Up next, we have Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin is actually going to play this week, and this is one I'm a little bit more optimistic about. You've seen the Seahawks play it very cautiously with Doug Baldwin throughout the preseason. They had him basically not practicing. They had him not playing, just resting his knee. And then gets to week 1, he's playing, he's out there, he's good. And then the other knee, he suffers an MCL sprain. He has been resting, obviously, since week 1. It's been quite a while. And the fact that they announced on Friday that he was going to play this week tells me that he's ready, that he's going to be good. There's one of the doctors, I can't remember his name right now, was covering, he expects Doug Baldwin to be maybe not 100%, but close to it in a great matchup with Budda Baker. So a lot of people have asked me, why don't I have Doug Baldwin higher in my rankings? It's really tough to put him there just because it's a multi-week absence and we don't know if the knee is perfectly fine. They could be putting him out there just because they're lacking weapons and it's a divisional game and they just want to get a win here. There's a lot of things that are involved. Doug Baldwin, I'm playing in a lot of leagues myself just because I really don't have any other options that I feel comfortable with. So if you're choosing between Doug Baldwin and someone else that you're really not totally confident in, I'm going Doug Baldwin. But if you're choosing between Doug Baldwin and someone like Kenny Galladay, I'm probably going to choose Galladay just because I know he's healthy. The matchup isn't terrible. And, I'm sure I'll be answering a lot of Doug Baldwin questions in this chat, but I wanted to let you guys know I view him as a wide receiver 3 this week with upside. Like the matchup with Budda Baker, who the Cardinals have tried to convert him from safety to slot cornerback, and it hasn't really panned out. He's been terrible in coverage. So Doug Baldwin, that's who he's going to draw the majority of the time. So it's a great matchup for him. Before I move on to the next entries, I do want to remind you guys that we are, in fact, giving away a Michael Thomas jersey. I just now heard about this one from our friends at Pristine Auction. We've been doing this in the podcast. If you guys want to win a Michael Thomas signed Saints jersey, all you have to do is go to fantasypros.com/jersey giveaway. And when you go to that link that they're going to put in the chat, I believe, if you guys go there, you guys will be able to enter the giveaway. Make sure to do that after the stream. And, be entered to win a Michael Thomas jersey. Who doesn't want that? Devontae Parker, he's another one that worries me. He popped up on the injury report with a quad injury this time. The matchup wasn't terrible. Going against the Patriots, I figured that Stephon Gilmore was going to be the one who was going to be matched up with him. Gilmore has allowed 3 touchdowns in his coverage this year, including one to Dante Moncrief. So he's not like an unbeatable force. But at the same time, when Parker pops back up on the injury report, it's never a good thing. So I'm a little concerned with Devontae Parker this week, and I would prefer getting him out of lineups. But the thing is, you might not even have to make that choice. I think it's very possible that he's inactive for this game because Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant have played pretty well in his absence. Next, we have Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle is out with a hip injury again. And again, they announced it multiple days before the game. This is concerning. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, that Indianapolis is playing against the Patriots on Thursday night in Week 5, which means you're probably going to be without Jack Doyle again. Make sure he is out of lineups. Eric Ebron is back on the tight end 1 radar. And the matchup against the Texans is actually a pretty good one. Devonta Freeman, another one who is out. I loved it when they started, like the Falcons coaching staff started trying to deny the rumors that Devonta Freeman was going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. Well, here we are. This is the 3rd week he's going to miss in a row. I do expect him back relatively soon because if he had like an MCL sprain or something like that, it's the same thing as Doug Baldwin. Now, Devonta Freeman, he puts a lot of torque on those knees. He takes a lot of hits. So I'm sure they're playing it safe. They have Tevin Coleman on the roster. He's out of your lineup. Get him out. Tevin Coleman's a fantastic play. If you have Tevin Coleman in your roster, you're playing him this week. And then the last one I wanted to mention before we move on to the sit and start is Joe Mixon. He is out. Some people were saying that he had a chance to play this week. I didn't think that was ever going to happen. It was always rushed. But the good news is that Joe Mixon appears like locked and loaded to be back next week. But for this week, Giovanni Bernard is an RB1. He's like going against the Falcons, who are struggling. They've lost 3 of their important starters on defense. Takk McKinley is not 100%. I don't even know if he's playing today. There's a lot of questions there. The Falcons have allowed the most receptions to running backs in each of the last 2 years. This year is no different. It's been massive. So Giovanni Bernard is a must play for me. So I'm going to get into some questions, guys. So put your question in there. I don't go in any particular order. I just grab them as I see. I don't play favorites or anything like that. I just kind of just go to the top of my screen and I say, what do I see here? So I'm going to start right here with Sean's question of Big Ben or Andy Dalton. I cannot sit Ben Roethlisberger at home. When Ben Roethlisberger is playing at home, you don't want to sit him. And that's basically where I'm always at on Roethlisberger. Now, Dalton's not a bad play at all. And it's really tough to say, oh, you don't want to play Andy Dalton, in the dome against the Falcons defense that's missing 3 of its starters. But Andy Dalton has been known to have bad games here and there as well. He's been better on the road too. But I don't know if AJ Green is 100%. I know he was removed off the injury report. I know he's saying he's okay. And that's good. But I think that there's more risk with Andy Dalton than there is with Ben Roethlisberger. Ben at home, that team is just, the Ravens do stop the run pretty well. They have been a pretty good pass defense the last few years. But, if you go back to the game that they had in week 15 last year? I can't remember the exact week it was, but those two played and it was a massive shootout. It's just basically what happens in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to go Roethlisberger there. It's close. Let's see. Cali Kidd, Chris Ivory, or Leonard Fournette. Oh, that's not even close, man. You're playing Leonard Fournette. Let's see. Ronald Jones is good enough for flex or Jalen Richard. Thanks. Those are both rough options, man. I don't want to say that Ronald Jones is good enough for the flex because I don't know if he's active just to get a few touches, to get his feet wet. It's against the Bears defense. The Bears defense has been nasty. They haven't allowed anything on the ground just yet, so I don't think it's a good matchup for him. Jalen Richard, I mean, against the Browns, it is what it is. That game should be pretty close throughout, so I don't know if Jalen Richard's going to see much playing time. I mean, it's crazy to think that you're rostering these guys, right? But man, if Ronald Jones is active, I guess him, because if they're making him active, maybe he's going to be the starter. I don't feel good. I mean, if Nyheim Hines is available, I would rather play him than both those guys. Kyle Juszczyk, I'd probably rather play than both those guys. To give you an idea as to, I'm just not high on them. All right, let's see. Ed, assuming they both play, who scores more, Fitzpatrick or Kirk? I mean, I said myself in the primer that Larry Fitzgerald, if his name wasn't Larry Fitzgerald, he wouldn't be considered a great play this week, considering what we've seen this year, considering everything. And that Christian Kirk actually has a better matchup. And Kirk, he actually saw 3 of 7 targets from Josh Rosen last week. So those two have a connection. They've roomed together this offseason. So, I mean, there's a chance. I mean, I have them both in very, very similar territory. I suppose I'd probably still go with Fitz just because it's Larry Fitzgerald and he's proved us wrong time and time again. But it wouldn't surprise me if Kirk finished more. James Conner or Kareem Hunt? I am playing James Conner. Again, when Pittsburgh's at home, you want to play them. You want to get as many players from Pittsburgh as you can in your lineup. Kareem Hunt's been really miserable. I don't have the stats in front of me right now, but if you go back and look at the last 14 games for Kareem Hunt, he's been very mediocre. Not good at all. And last week, he played the lowest amount of snaps, like percentage-wise, than he had since his first game in the NFL. So tread lightly. I'm not saying Kareem Hunt is out of RB1 territory or anything like that, but he has a tough matchup against Denver. Denver is a team that you actually throw on now. You don't run on them. I mean, over the last 2 years now, they've allowed, I think it's 3.45 yards per carry, so it's not great. So yeah, Kareem Hunt, I'm treading lightly with him. I think James Conner is the play. Having some trouble with my lineup. I need a wide receiver 2, RB2, and a flex. All right, so guys, I'm sorry, AZ balling up. I can't get to that because when you throw out 7 players, I can't do it just because it's gonna limit the questions I can get to. So please, guys, if you're gonna ask a question, narrow it to 2 or 3 players, and because otherwise I have to skip it. I'm sorry. I really do want to answer as many as I can, and that's why I'm doing it. Thoughts on Keenan Allen today? I mean, it's always worrisome when you see someone limited throughout practice. It's a game where Keenan Allen, he might get off to a hot start. Then they might just say, let's rest him a little bit just because we don't need to beat San Francisco by more than a touchdown. I don't know. I mean, I would still play him. I still feel like it's a good matchup for him against K'Wan Williams in the slot. I'm playing Keenan Allen. I have him ranked as a wide receiver 1. There are a little bit there's concerns about him, but the only concerns I have is for DFS purposes. I'm playing him in season-long lineups. Ridley or Baldwin and a half PPR? That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I think I put Doug Baldwin just ahead of Ridley. It's really close, though, because, does Cincinnati have William Jackson shadowing Julio Jones? Do they have that? And then Ridley is just kind of left with the aftermath of what they have in the secondary, which hasn't been great. Moving into the slot, Darqueze Dennard. Mohamed Sanu actually has a really good matchup. I'm jumping around here a little bit, but Doug Baldwin, the matchup that he has, it really doesn't get much better than what he has this week. And again, I know he comes with risk, but I'm not going to sit here and say that Calvin Ridley doesn't. I mean, Calvin Ridley had 7 targets in the first 2 games, so it's not like he's a sure thing. So I'm going to go with Doug Baldwin here. I just feel like the matchup is too good against Budda Baker this week. Let's see, Mike Williams or Calvin Ridley in the flex. I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley on that one, just because I believe that game can turn into a shootout between the Bengals and the Falcons. You have 2 guys who are the number 2 options in their team. Mike Williams, love Mike Williams. I do view him as a wide receiver 3 for the remainder of the season. I think I have him as my number 38 receiver. But he's also very touchdown dependent, right? And the reason I say that is because, they have Tyrell Williams. They're getting Travis Benjamin back this week. Melvin Gordon's still involved. Austin Eckler is still involved. Antonio Gates saw more targets than he had all season last week. So it's there's a whole lot of competition there. So personally, this week, I think I'm going Ridley. I don't think Mike Williams is a bad play, but I'm going to go Ridley. Baker Mayfield or Russell Wilson this week. I actually have that decision myself in a few leagues. I'm going with Russell Wilson. Carson or Breida? I would go Carson. And again, this comes down to Breida. And again, if you guys missed the beginning of the show, I talked about Matt Breida and the fact that this hyperextended knee, it's very possible that this team falls behind and they just say, why are we going to throw Breida out there when he's less than 100%? I have my concerns about him. I would much rather play someone who's in a similar territory of the rankings, but is healthy. We know that Chris Carson's healthy. We also know that he got 32 carries last week. So it's not a great matchup for Carson, but the guy, he knows that he's playing for his job essentially every single week. All right, Sterling Shepard or Doug Baldwin. That's a good one. I would actually go Sterling Shepard. I think Sterling Shepard's matchup is phenomenal. Sterling Shepard's like a must play for me this week, and I have him ranked as I think like number 24, 25 receiver. And I know some people might say that that's like not must play territory, but I mean, how high can I really go with Odell Beckham on the field? But Sterling Shepard matched up with the Saints. So they're going to have Marshawn Lattimore on Odell Beckham. Beckham can beat him for sure. Like that, Beckham can beat any cornerback in the league, but he can limit his upside, right? And that's when you look to the middle of the field. That's where you're going to see Sterling Shepard taking some of those targets that Evan Ingram had. You're going to see Saquon Barkley see a little bit more targets. But Sterling Shepard matched up with PJ Williams because the Saints tried to rectify their slot problem because they had issues in the slot last year. They had, I'm forgetting his name. He went to Tennessee. The safety, they had him coming up playing. I can't remember his name for the life of me. This is making me so mad. But he's a safety. He was coming down to play slot for them. He didn't do so well, so they kind of moved on, and they signed Patrick Robinson this offseason. Patrick Robinson was one of the best slot cornerbacks in the game last year with Philly. So they got him. All of a sudden, he gets hurt last week. He's out for the year now with an ankle injury. So they're forced to go to P.J. Williams. And you saw P.J. Williams and Ken Crawley last week, what they allowed to Calvin Ridley. It was just nasty. Mohamed Sanu got some plays in there. So, it's Sterling Shepard has a great matchup, and he's in a lot of my DFS lineups. Let's see. Can I trust Sony Michel? Other options are Aaron Jones or Jay Ajayi. Thanks for what you do. So can you trust Sony Michel? I mean, as much as you can. He hasn't looked great. And look, I'm going to be honest about this. I like Sony Michel, the player. I love the talent. I liked him when he came in. I am worried though, because he looks very tentative. He looks like someone who's playing scared. He's playing not to lose the football. And it's forcing him to play tight. If that makes sense. He's not playing loose. And that might happen with Bill Belichick. I don't know. But the thing is, now that Rex Burkhead has gone, he's going to see an additional, 12 to 15 snaps per game. I think James White's going to be more involved. I think there's a level of risk to playing Ridley, sure. But I have him currently as my number 18 running back this week, so I have him over both those guys. I think Aaron Jones has the potential for a really big week. I mean, I can't go all out in the rankings and say, oh my God, I'm putting this guy's top 12. I do believe that he has the chance to put up a top 12 performance this week. But there is risk, right? Because Jamal Williams is a better pass protector, that they're in a three-way timeshare. There's risks with that. Jay Ajayi with the back fractures, he's in a timeshare. It's so tough to know what to do with them. If he doesn't score, he busts, and Tennessee has been relatively good against running backs the last few years. So I don't want to jump on Jay Ajayi, especially when we know all these issues. So I go Sony Michel of them guys, but I think Aaron Jones is close. I think Aaron Jones has as much upside as anyone this week. Let's see, James White or Jay Ajayi. If it's a PPR, I'm playing James White 100%. If it's a standard league, it's really close. I'd probably still go White, to be honest with you, but it's close. All right, let's see, Tom Brady or Big Ben. I'm going to go Brady in this one. So I said that you have to play Roethlisberger at home, and I do feel that way. But when you have Tom Brady coming off an embarrassing loss, again, so the Patriots don't have much of a run game right now, and a lot of it has to do with their offensive line not getting any push up front. Tom Brady hasn't been getting the best pass protection either. However, Josh Gordon looks like he's going to be active for this game. Rob Gronkowski is going to be out there. The Dolphins are 3-0. These guys, they're overdue for a loss. And I think the Patriots, they're a team that in their divisional matchups, if they're on the road against the Dolphins, then I would have some concerns. But at home, I don't. I'm actually playing. I have Tom Brady as my number 2 quarterback this week. I might be a little too high. I might adjust that a little bit. But I do like Brady this week an awful lot. So I would play him. Hunt or Aaron Jones? I'm still going to play Hunt there, but Aaron Jones, I like Aaron Jones a lot. It just comes down to process, and you'd kick yourself if you played Aaron Jones over Kareem Hunt, and then Jones ends up getting 8 carries in a three-way timeshare, then you're going to be really upset. So you don't really want to do that. That's why I'm going to go Hunt. But again, if you have Aaron Jones in your team, that's always a good thing. I think you could probably fit him in the flex or something. Standard, I need one: Doug Baldwin, Corey Davis, or Geronimo Allison. So I love Corey Davis. I love his matchup. However, I don't love Marcus Mariota, so I'm worried about that. Geronimo Allison is a good play, but I'm not going to play him over Baldwin. If Randall Cobb is out, Geronimo Allison's going to move up my rankings a little bit. I mean, he probably should be higher as it is, but I'm gonna go with Baldwin there. The matchup's just too good. The injury, most players that come back from that injury, it's not like a hamstring where they re-aggravate it. So I'm gonna go with Baldwin, even though there is some risk. Baldwin or Godwin in a half PPR? Baldwin for sure. Godwin is splitting snaps. He was 4th on the team last week, behind Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, and Adam Humphries. So he can't score a touchdown every single week. He has so far, but it's going to come to an end at some point. And so I'm going to go with Doug Baldwin. All right, let's see. John Brown or Sterling Shepard in a PPR. I know a lot of people have John Brown here, and I like John Brown. I still think I would go Sterling Shepard here. Both of them have another player on their team that's obviously really good, like Michael Crabtree. I think Crabtree's in for a good week. John Brown can be as well. I mean, Pittsburgh's secondary is nothing to worry about. Again, I anticipate that being a higher scoring game. But again, Sterling Shepard is one of those guys where I just feel like if I have a decision of someone that's close to him, I'm going to lean Shepard just because the matchup is so good, especially with Evan Ingram out. Stills and Standard have Ridley on my team. I'm not sure what the question is there, Bob, but I mean, I like Stills this week. I have him as a wide receiver 3. Corey the Dude, full PPR, Golden Tate or Phillip Lindsay. Oh man, that's tough. So Golden Tate popped up on the injury report. He's going to play. His matchup this week isn't as good as it's been against Dallas. I don't think it's a bad matchup, but give me the guaranteed touches with Lindsay. At least we know he's healthy. Some people project that as a higher scoring game with Kansas City and Denver, but I'll go with the guaranteed touches. I mean, yeah, I'm going to go with Lindsay there. Goddard or Njoku? Njoku. So I think Goddard can be a player. However, it does hurt that Alshon Jeffrey is coming back to the lineup because obviously that's going to take away some of the touchdown potential for the tight ends. But it's not a great matchup this week. I mean, I liked Goddard when I did the primer because Alshon Jeffrey, I didn't expect him to play because I felt like Goddard was going to be used as like a wide receiver. He still can be, but he's very, very touchdown dependent. And he's only going to play, 20, 30 snaps a game. David Njoku's playing almost every single snap. He has Baker Mayfield now, a guy that, while with Oklahoma, he threw to his tight end nonstop. Like Baker Mayfield loves his tight end, and I think you're going to see David Njoku finish as a top 10 tight end. Going forward, I like David Njoku as a top 10 tight end. All right, Captain Bob. Hey, Tags, pick 2, half PPR. All right, we have too many players there again. I'm sorry. Full PPR, Mike Williams or Jay Ajayi. I think I'd probably take my chances there at Mike Williams, which is really weird to say because like I always prefer the running backs with guaranteed touches. But, I mean, how many touches are we really guaranteed for Jay Ajayi? I mean, he's playing through the back fracture. I don't know how bad it is. Me personally, I have suffered back fractures before. So when I initially suffered them, this is like an insight that I can tell you like a personal experience. When I initially fractured, it was 2 vertebrae I fractured. Initially happened, I legitimately felt like I couldn't walk. Like it was just very stiff back there. I went to the doctor. Basically, they put you on painkillers, and then they say, go home, and there's nothing you could do for a fracture. You just have to rest it. So they had me. So I did a physical job at that point, but they sent me home and they said, we want you on bed rest for a month. So knowing that he's coming back with this, it could act up at any point. The only way to get better is to rest. I mean, I know he's been out it's basically 2 weeks since he's played, but I still think there's some risk there with him, right? So that's why I'm going to go with Mike Williams, who's also a touchdown dependent option. Like you're not going to say that Mike Williams is a guaranteed thing. So I'm going to go with Mike Williams there. Fitzmagic or Wentz? Play Wentz. So if you have the decision between Ryan Fitzpatrick and someone else this week, I highly suggest you go with the other person. Because like if you're deciding between, Wentz, someone like Russell Wilson, Case Keenum, these guys aren't going to be benched, right? They're not going to be. A rumor came out that Dirk Cutter said that Ryan Fitzpatrick was 1 or 2 plays away from being benched last week, and that wasn't for Jameis Winston. So it was really bad. So I think he's on a really short leash. I think if they fall behind to the Bears, or if it has the makings of what could be a low-scoring game. The Bears' offense hasn't been great. The Bears' defense has been great. They haven't allowed much. The offensive line for the Bucs is ugly. So knowing that the Bears front is coming after them, it's very possible that Ryan Fitzpatrick plays 1 half in this game. So approach that with very high caution. It's a very boom or bust week. It's like The only way he keeps playing the entire game is if he's like up here and he's throwing multiple touchdowns and like he's finishing as a top 10 quarterback, or it's a bust where he's like legitimately being benched at halftime. So there's just too much risk in there for me at the quarterback position. I don't think you need to do that. And Lewis, I see your question about Fitzpatrick or Luck. I would play Luck. I actually have Andrew Luck as a top 12 play this week. Let's see, Baker Mayfield or Phillip Rivers. I'm going to play Rivers there. Yeah, I don't think you need to get cute with that one. Play Rivers. No Richard Sherman. Great matchup. All right, let's see. Pick 3. All right, I need 3. 1 point PPR. So you gave me 4 names here, but you need to eliminate just one. Larry Fitzgerald, Doug Baldwin, Galladay, Crabtree. I would bench Larry Fitzgerald. Let's see. Drake, Breida, or Galladay in the flex. I would play Galladay. I think Kenyon Drake could have a breakout week. I think this is really a contest where it might favor his skill set. Like, he's going to get some carries. He's going to be used in the passing game. I like him a lot this week. I'd probably go Galladay just because he's safer with the way that they've used Drake, but I think Drake is a solid RB2 this week. Let's see. Standard flex, Baldwin or Tate. I'd probably go Tate there. Again, both players, man. Yeah, I'm going to go Tate just because Baldwin we haven't seen. We don't know if he's out there as a decoy. We have no idea. There's just risk, and that's what I'm saying. I love Baldwin's matchup, but I can't go all in on him because, I mean, who's to say, like, imagine yourself watching that game today or just reading through whatever, and all of a sudden it pops up and says that Doug Baldwin questionable to return with a knee injury, and you're like, dang it. I knew I shouldn't have played him. Like, that's the stuff that you have to think about when you put in these guys in your lineup. So Golden Tate, I think, is a little safer. That's why I would go that route. Full point PPR, Amari Cooper, Mike Williams, or Geronimo Allison. I'd go Amari Cooper. I know people are pissed at Amari, and that's fine. I don't expect everybody to understand what's going on with that situation, but I mean, believe me, I've watched, and he's going to be a bit up and down, but let's not pretend that Mike Williams is not going to be up or down as well without touchdowns. Let's pretend that Geronimo Allison is not the number 1 receiver for Aaron Rodgers. So I like Geronimo Allison an awful lot. And if Randall Cobb is out, I'm going to move him up even more in my rankings. But I would still go with Amari Cooper here. It's like you saw what happened after week 1 where he saw 3 targets. They targeted him 10 times in a tough matchup against Denver the next week, and he caught all 10. So it's just a matter of the game plan and Oakland needing to execute it. But I'll go Amari. Austin Eckler or Derrick Henry? Oh, man, that's ugly. If it's a PPR, I'd probably play Eckler, to be honest with you. But if it's standard, I'll go Henry. Jay Ajayi or Josh Gordon in my flex? That's the point where I'll go Jay Ajayi. I'm not confident in his return. I'm not confident in much about that situation, but I'm also not even confident that Josh Gordon plays very much. They might have Philip Dorsett out there running routes over him. I don't know. It's tough to say. Let's see. Matt Breida or Callaway for the flex standard. I don't like Callaway's matchup as much as some people do, but Breida is really risky. That's actually a really good question. I'd probably take the risk with Breida there. I think it's worth it. Sit or start, sorry guys, it skipped over. Start or bench Demaryius Thomas. I'm playing Demaryius Thomas this week. I have him as a top 20 receiver. The Chiefs cornerbacks, not very good. Keelan Cole or James White. I would play James White. James White is going to be like a bigger part of the game plan than most realize. Like, so I mean, I'm usually like on him in PPR leagues, but I think he's going to get more carries than people think. It wouldn't shock me to see James White get 8 to 10 carries in this game, and he's probably going to catch 5 or 6 passes. So, definitely, I like James White just a little bit more than Keelan Cole, who should have a good game as well. All right, standard Giovanni Bernard or Leonard Fournette. I'm playing Fournette. In a standard, if it was PPR, I'd say Bernard, but Gio's a great play too. Like, again, his skill set matches what Atlanta struggles against. So, but being it's not a PPR, I don't know if Giovanni Bernard scores, and that's going to limit you in a standard format. Leonard Fournette, I do think he scores. So, I mean, that's why I'm going there, but it's close. Rivers, Rodgers, or Wilson, eliminate one of them. Wilson. I'd eliminate Wilson of that group. Rodgers or Rivers, I have Rivers 1 spot ahead of him, and I also know that he's healthy, so I would play Rivers. Lamar Miller or Alex Collins, I will go with Lamar Miller. I don't think it's a great matchup against the Colts. I don't think they're as good as they looked against Adrian Peterson in week 2. I just think that was terrible game plan on Washington's part. But I would go with Lamar Miller here. Alex Collins, it's such a mess. I know that there's very high possibility that he scores a touchdown and he outproduces Lamar Miller, but I just don't think he's safe enough to do that. That's my concern. I want to say that they're one spot away in my rankings. I think I have Lamar Miller at 16, Alex Collins at 17. Matt Breida or Kerryon Johnson, full PPR, Kerryon. Again, if there's someone in the same territory, so Josh Gordon is in fact active, guys. Just tweeted by Ian Rappaport, just so you guys know, Josh Gordon is playing. And if you guys want to play Josh Gordon, I have no issue with it, but don't play him over proven commodities this week. There's upside there. There sure is, but there's also one catch for, 8-yard upside or downside. But yeah, going back to the question, Nick, I would go Kerryon Johnson. I know he's healthy. He should have earned a bigger role last week. The Cowboys defense without Sean Lee has been much different over the last few years. So I would go with Kerryon. Golden Tate, Marshawn Lynch, or John Brown in a half PPR. I'm going to play Marshawn Lynch here because, again, I preferred the guaranteed touches, and especially coming from a guy who should score a touchdown. It really stinks that the Raiders don't give him more carries in games, like in terms of like on the goal line, because Marshawn Lynch should have like multiple 2-touchdown games, but he doesn't. Randall Cobb is out. Another update that we have live on the show. I try and keep you guys entertained and let you know what's going on. It's happening. Randall Cobb is out. He is not playing this week, so Geronimo Allison is going to get bumped up in my rankings. I don't know exactly to where, but if you guys are following me on Twitter, I will update my rankings before the games start. Geronimo Allison, I'm just going to pull it up now just so you guys can kind of see my process. LaShawn McCoy is active. All right, so let's see. Geronimo Allison, I'm going to move him up into the territory of I think I'm going to stick him right in front of Keelan Cole as my number 36 wide receiver on the week. So against Buffalo, the concern with Geronimo Allison is that the Packers aren't going to pass that much. I think this is a week where the Packers need to get their ground game going. They have the matchup to do it against Buffalo. They need their defense and their run game to carry him here. However, Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball, we'll say a minimum. Okay, even if it's maximum 30 times, a minimum of 20 times, right? So when you break down these targets and where they're going to go, Devontae Adams is going to match up with Tre'Davious White for the majority of the day. The running backs don't necessarily need to be targeted a whole lot in the running and in this game. I just think that Geronimo Allison might have an 8-target area, like a 6 to 8 target place, and he's performed extremely well. So I have him as a wide receiver 3. I probably should like him more than I do, to be honest with you, but he's going to be a good play. I like Allison, but just know that Randall Cobb, get him out of your lineups. He's out for this week. So moving on to the next questions. Let's see. We have Jordan Howard or David Johnson in the flex. That's a question I did not think I would see. But as of right now, that's really tough. Tampa Bay has struggled. They've struggled against the run in terms of they've allowed 4 touchdowns through 3 games. They're getting their first-round pick, Vita Vea, back this week. He's been out since the preseason. I don't know how many snaps he's going to play, but he should be able to make somewhat of an impact. He's a better pass rusher than he is a run stuffer. So this one's tough. This one's really tough. Man. I think I have to go with David Johnson here in a half PPR, knowing he should catch some passes from Josh Rosen. I just expect them to take the load off of him this week. I don't think they want him to throw a whole lot. So I'll go with David Johnson this one. It's close, though. But why do you have to choose between both of them, though? If you have those two in flex, you probably are going to win regardless. Stills, Watkins, or Breida. So this one comes down to Stills or Watkins. So Sammy Watkins is going to see a lot of Bradley Roby in this matchup. He's also going to see some of Chris Harris Jr. He's been really high the last few weeks, whereas Tyreek Hill has taken a backseat a little bit. So I'm going to go with Kenny Stills here. I think Kenny Stills' speed can beat the Patriots deep. I think that they want to see Devontae Parker on the field to take Stephon Gilmore away in coverage, but we don't know that yet. Haven't seen it pop up just yet. But yeah, Kenny Stills is the one I would play there. Standard T.Y. Hilton or Geronimo Allison. You're going Hilton here, right? The only way that the Colts are going to be able to move the ball is through the air. That's why I actually like Andrew Luck this week. I think that they should be able to develop this shorter passing game and make it work because the cornerbacks for Houston are just not very good. So I would go T.Y. Hilton here. Allison is shaping up to be a good play, but I would not play him over Hilton. Isaiah Crowell or Ryan Grant, PPR flex. Um, man, I know there's some people are going to be really mad at me. Because I probably go Ryan Grant here because again they're not moving the ball on the ground. Jordan Wilkins is not moving the ball against Houston. Missing the 2 tackles. I like I said, I think Ryan Grant should catch at least 4 or 5 balls here. Let's say that it's a minimum 4 for 50 yards. We're looking at 9 PPR points. Will Isaiah Crowell score 9 PPR points against the Jags? I don't know if I can say that he will. So I'm not in love with Isaiah Crowell this week. I never really am. I think they're similar plays. I would probably play, if it were my lineup myself, I would play Ryan Grant. Matt Ryan or Phillip Rivers? That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I'd probably go Rivers just because it's very possible that the Chargers are trying to give Melvin Gordon some time off, like because Melvin Gordon has, if you guys haven't noticed, they've been using Austin Eckler quite a bit, and I think it has to do with a tweak that Melvin Gordon had back. It was in week 2 against Buffalo. I was watching that game, and something didn't look right. And since that time, they've been slowly using Eckler a little bit more. So maybe they throw the ball a little bit more in this one. So I'll go with Rivers, but it's really close. Like I don't think there's a bad choice there. Sony Michel or Josh Gordon, half-point PPR in the flex. I would go with Sony Michel. Like, this is hands down to me. Like, I understand that Josh Gordon comes with upside. There's a lot of guys in your bench that come with upside. I think James Washington is a guy that comes with upside against Baltimore, but that doesn't mean I'm starting him. If Josh Gordon is out there for, 70% of the snaps and he sees a couple targets, I'm happy going forward because that tells me that he's going to be an every down player, and that's good. All right, let's see. Inactives. Corey Clement, inactive. Devontae Parker is inactive. This is like what we were talking about, guys. Like I told you guys, Devontae Parker, I was worried about him popping up on the injury report. Kenny Stills, so they're going to have Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant kind of split the role to fill, to kind of like take place of him. So I'll update that in the rankings, but I do want to continue with your questions here. But Sony Michel, guaranteed touches. He hasn't looked great, but again, I'm going Sony Michel here against an inexperienced Dolphins linebacker core. Dion Lewis. Oh, I'm sorry, it totally passed. Sometimes these questions, when I scroll like even a bit, it just goes like, and it slides down. So I'm sorry. Let's see. Devontae Parker, Fitzgerald, or Baldwin. Well, Devontae Parker is out. Larry Fitzgerald or Doug Baldwin. You need 2, so you're playing Fitzgerald and Baldwin. I think that we figured that out. I would play Baldwin over Fitzgerald if that were a question. Let's see. Calvin Ridley or Royce Freeman and a half PPR for flex. I'll go Calvin Ridley here. I don't think Royce Freeman's guaranteed anything. He needs to score a touchdown because he's not getting enough touches to guarantee not a bust without a touchdown. So basically Royce Freeman, it's like you're getting these games where it's like, 20 to 40 to 50 yards. And if he didn't have a touchdown, you'd be feeling really bad about that play. So I know the over-under that game is expected to be high, but I would play Ridley. That game could turn into a shootout. And again, Ridley has a great matchup, so that's where I'd go. Let's see, LaShawn McCoy or Coleman. That's Tevin Coleman, I'm guessing, and Tevin Coleman for sure. Like, LaShawn McCoy, he's someone that I'm not, like, excited to play. Like, I don't think he's, like, a terrible play as, like, a back-end RB2, but I don't want to play him over someone like Tevin Coleman. Coleman's the play. Let's see, Tyler Boyd, Drake, or Royce Freeman, the flex standard. I know a lot of people would say Boyd here, and I don't think Boyd's a bad play. I have him as a wide receiver 3 this week, but I would play Kenyon Drake. Again, so the reason we haven't seen a whole lot of Kenyon Drake and we've seen some of Frank Gore is because Frank Gore is going to play more in games where it's closer, it's tight, right? And that's the thing, is that's why I didn't like Frank Gore on the Colts. That's why I don't like him on the Dolphins, because I didn't envision their team to be leading very often. But knowing that the Dolphins are 3-0, it shouldn't shock you to see Gore use a little bit more. But I do expect New England to win this game. I expect them to win somewhat big. So I think that Kenyon Drake is a solid RB2 play this week. So I would go with him over those guys. Jordy Nelson or Taylor Gabriel? Taylor Gabriel is an interesting one. I mean, I'm not going to play him. I think that Taylor Gabriel can be used like in a DFS lineup if you're looking to win a tournament. But I don't want to use him in a weekly lineup. Like, I don't think Anthony Miller's going to play in this game. I haven't seen the inactives on the Bears side, but I don't think he's playing. So it's going to free up some things. Like, Taylor Gabriel's been getting a lot more targets than people realize. They've been on like a lot of like screens, and he's been getting some end arounds and some trick plays, and he's going to break one of these weeks, but that's more for DFS purposes. I would go with Jordy Nelson. The reason that Jordy Nelson, I am kind of like turning my take on Jordy Nelson this year because When he came to the team, I wanted to see him play out of the slot because Jordy Nelson doesn't have the speed. He doesn't have his route running chops have faded a little bit to the point where he's not going to gain separation on the perimeter. I wanted to see him play in the slot. So now with Seth Roberts out last week, we saw Jordy Nelson play the slot over 50% of the time. That's massive for his production. And it's kind of like a Larry Fitzgerald thing where it's like late in his career in these superstars, you need to put him in the slot to maximize some mismatches because they're going to be matched up with some second-tier corners, and Jordy's going to get that. So I do think that Jordy Nelson is the play here. He may not have as high a ceiling as Taylor Gabriel, but again, that's more for DFS. Russell Wilson or Matt Stafford? I would play Matthew Stafford. So Russell Wilson, I have him like as a high-end QB2 right now. He has never really played like out of this world good against Arizona, but they are under a new coaching staff. They do run a lot of zone defense instead of man coverage. So things have changed a little bit with Russell Wilson against this team. But again, they're on the road. Matthew Stafford is used to playing in a dome, which they're obviously going to be in Dallas. The Dallas defense isn't great, but they're also not bad. Again, Matthew Stafford is the one I would go to just because the weapons he has are just better right now. Russell Wilson, I want to make sure Doug Baldwin's back before I can say confidently that Russell Wilson is like a must play. And on top of that, I sent a tweet out earlier this week, and if you guys didn't see it, it's pretty funny. Through 3 weeks of the NFL season, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, and there was someone else have more rushing yards. Each of them, not combined, like each of them have more rushing yards than Russell Wilson, which tells me that Brian Schottenheimer is kind of taking the legs out of Russell Wilson and forcing him into plays where it's like more of like a pocket passer. And that's just not what Russell Wilson is. So I'm worried on that front. I would play Stafford. Tannehill or Fitzmagic? I would go Tannehill. Crabtree or Corey Davis? I would play Michael Crabtree, and so I don't want to give up on Corey Davis because I think Corey Davis is a phenomenal talent. I'm just worried about Marcus Mariota right now. The matchup isn't bad against Philadelphia, but again, if Marcus Mariota can't get the ball down the field, if he can't feel parts of his arm, that's an issue. So I'm approaching with high caution with Corey Davis right now. Let's see, Keelan Cole or Doug Baldwin. I have Doug Baldwin slightly higher because there's risks with Baldwin, but there are also risks with Cole because he's playing with Blake Bortles. So Blake Bortles is not, he's not a very consistent quarterback. I think that's the best way for me to say that. So, I mean, Keelan Cole, a decent matchup. He's going to see all different cornerbacks this week, but when he gets Morris Claiborne on the left side, that's where he should do his damage, but he needs Bortles to get him the ball. Let's see, PPR, Chris Carson or Sony Michel. I would play Sony Michel in that matchup because, again, I told Bobby on the podcast because he's buying in right now to Chris Carson, and I said, hold on, wait a second, because Chris Carson is a guy that we didn't want to trust going into last week because he had, 4 or 5 carries against the Bears. Rashad Penny beat him in touches the last 2 weeks, and it was all of a sudden 32 carries. Okay, he had 102 yards. Okay, he scored a touchdown. It was only the second touchdown by a Seahawks running back in the ground game over the last 2 years. That's obviously something, right? We have to take that into consideration, but I'm also not going to let it influence my decisions for the rest, going forward, because Rashad Penny is still on the roster. They drafted him in the first round. He's going to be a part of things. Arizona's defense is legit. Run defense, I should say, is pretty legit. So me personally, I would go with Sony Michel there. I just think that Sony is better than he's looked, and he's going to get more snaps going forward. George Kittle or O.J. Howard at tight end? I'd probably go with O.J. Howard just because I think there's risk with both of them. C.J. Beathard, if you guys don't know, C.J. Beathard actually played college ball with George Kittle, so Kittle might not see as big of a decline as some people might think, but at the same time, the matchup against L.A. isn't great. O.J. Howard isn't good against the Bears either, but O.J. Howard is the type of tight end who could take a 10-yard slant and take it 75 yards to the house. Ryan Fitzpatrick talked about you having a tight end that can do that. It's a game changer. He's like a wide receiver playing the tight end position who's going to get matched up with linebackers and safeties. So I'll go with O.J. Howard in that one. David Njoku or Eric Ebron in standard. I like Njoku this week, and I really do going forward, but I'm still playing Ebron. So last week, he saw 11 targets with Jack Doyle out of the lineup. That's massive. I know the production wasn't there to match that, but they were playing in a game that was filled with rain throughout. It just wasn't a game where you were going to see like highlights in the passing game. So Jack Doyle is out once again. Eric Ebron is going to be the primary tight end for Andrew Luck, and they're playing a Houston defense that has really struggled in their secondary. They struggle against wide receivers. They struggle against tight ends. You need to get the ball out very quickly. We saw even once Evan Engram went down Last week we saw Rhett Ellison come in and play well. So I do believe that Eric Ebron, I would play him over Njoku. All right, let's see. Deshaun Jackson or Tyler Boyd in a PPR flex. That one's Boyd for me. That is Boyd. The next one is actually another Tyler Boyd question. John Brown or Tyler Boyd in standard. I'd probably go John Brown there. I do think Tyler Boyd's a good start going forward, guys, because John Ross is really struggling to do anything. He's playing without confidence. He's stopping his routes. Whenever he has a route that he really doesn't feel like running, he doesn't, and that's going to be really problematic because you see him on like a comeback route where he turns around and he might be 20 yards down the field, so it's going to take some time for that ball to get to him. He has to come back to that ball. Otherwise, Andy Dalton, he's going to put him in trouble, and that's what's happened. I think he's been intercepted 3 times when targeting John Ross this year, and some of that's on Ross, some of it's on Dalton, but as of right now, Boyd is just the safer guy. He's the one he's going to be checked down to an awful lot. He's got a good matchup against Brian Poole in the slot, so I think Boyd is a good play, but I'm still going John Brown in a standard format. Let's see. Galladay, Watkins, or Crabtree, full PPR. I would play. Geez, that's tough. So I really like Michael Crabtree a lot this week, but I also have Kenny Galladay up there. I'm going to go Galladay just because he's been a bit safer than Crabtree over the first few weeks. But I do like Crabtree. It stinks me saying to bench him, but I'd probably play Galladay. Marshawn Lynch or Sony Michel in a half PPR. I would play Lynch. I think Lynch scores at least 1 touchdown in this game. I really don't see any situation where Marshawn Lynch doesn't score against the Browns. So that's where I'm going. Lynch is much better version of Isaiah Crowell. And they're playing in Oakland where Lynch typically plays really well. He's a big hometown guy. He loves Oakland. I do put that into it. They're a home favorite. There's a lot of reasons to like Lynch here. Sony Michel, yeah, I like him, but there is risk there because I think James White is going to be involved a lot more than people think. Geronimo Allison or Mike Williams, full point PPR. This is where I would go Geronimo Allison, especially with Randall Cobb out of the lineup. It's massive for him. It's just going to raise his target floor. And, knowing that he's not going to see Tre'Davious White in coverage a lot of the time, that's really beneficial as well. So I would go Allison there. Andrew Luck or Mayfield, I have Andrew Luck higher this week. I think Baker's a fine play. I think I have him as my QB 16, but I have Luck as my number 11 or 12. So I do like Andrew Luck a little more. Half point PPR, Sanders or Will Fuller. Ooh, man, that's a good one. I would go with Will Fuller. Sanders has his toughest matchup in a while this week because the Steelers, they run a lot of zone defense, so it's not going to literally shut him down or anything like that. But Mike Hilton is their slot cornerback, and Mike Hilton has been really good. He played at near a Pro Bowl level last year. It forced them to bench their longtime starter at the position. So me personally, I would go Will Fuller here. It seems like DeAndre Hopkins is a little dinged up. There's 3 injuries that they're putting on the injury report with DeAndre Hopkins, and Will Fuller, the way he matches up with the Colts, it's nasty. So knowing he's playing well with Deshaun Watson, I go Will Fuller here. Ryan versus Brady. I have Brady higher in my rankings. Again, I don't think you can make a wrong decision there. Someone else asked Matt Ryan or Phillip Rivers. These are guys who are in my top 6 quarterbacks, so I wouldn't overthink this. I think they're all good plays. Carson Wentz or Andy Dalton, full. All right, so Wentz or Dalton. I would go Dalton here. Looking at this Atlanta defense. So ever since losing, their stud inside linebacker and Deion Jones, and then losing Keanu Neal, now they've lost Ricardo Allen. So since losing just the 2 players, Cam Newton, 335 yards, 3 touchdowns. Drew Brees, 396 yards, 3 touchdowns. I don't think anybody's surprised by the Brees number, but Cam Newton, 335 yards passing, that doesn't happen very much. 3 touchdowns, that doesn't happen very much through the air. So that defense is really struggling. I would go with Andy Dalton there. Carson Wentz, he's playing he's on the road against a somewhat, I don't want to say underrated Titans defense because under the new coaching staff, they haven't really looked great. So I don't want to say they're underrated anymore because they used to be. But me personally, I would go with Dalton. Standard flex, McCoy, Watkins, or Phillip Lindsay. In that situation, I'll go with LaShawn McCoy. I don't feel great about Watkins. I don't feel great about Lindsay. They're okay. RB3, wide receiver 3, but I'll go with McCoy there. I don't want to answer my question either. Alex Collins, James White, or Nelson Aguilar in a half point PPR. I almost said Nelson Aguilar just because the matchup with him, Logan Ryan, talking about that Tennessee defense. Logan Ryan's the weak point of that. But Alshon Jeffrey, coming back into the lineup. Alex Collins, there's question marks about. This one is really tough, man. So, Mazanek, I'm sorry. I wish I could be more of help to you because like these guys are all in similar territory. It would be, I mean, I like James White a lot, but it would probably be down to Alex Collins and Nelson Aguilar. And I usually want to take the guaranteed touches. So, I mean, following my own advice, it would probably be Alex Collins. But Nelson Aguilar is really close. And so is James White, to be fair. Marvin Jones, Keelan Cole, or Chris Godwin in standard. I would probably go with Marvin Jones or Keelan Cole of those two. So Marvin Jones, the matchup he has against the Cowboys cornerbacks, it really depends on how they game plan, right? Because they did a phenomenal job against the Giants, and then they were terrible last week. So it's just like, what defense is going to show up? They're a very young secondary. So Marvin Jones, can he beat him deep? Sure. But do they play the game that they did against the Giants where they say, we'll give you everything underneath, but we're not going to let you beat us over the top? If they do that, Marvin Jones might be in some trouble because he's relying on some big receptions to get the job done. Keelan Cole, again, dealing with some bad quarterback play. The matchup that he has this week against Morris Claiborne and Jermaine Johnson, it's not a great matchup. I think they need to give him in the slot a little bit more to maximize his potential this week. But we don't know if that's going to happen. I think we're going to see a lot of Leonard Fournette here. So I'm going to go with Marvin Jones. Doug Baldwin, Chris Godwin, or Josh Gordon? Doug Baldwin, yeah. All right, let's see. Jacksonville defense or Chicago's defense? I would probably go Jacksonville's defense this week. I think the Bears are a fine play, but the Jacksonville defense, I just don't see any way that Sam Darnold comes out looking halfway decent against a defense that just lost a 9-6 game at home to the Titans. Like, that team is out for blood, and I believe it happens. So I'm going Jacksonville D. Let's see. Full PPR, Mike Williams, John Brown, or Kenny... Oh, I'm sorry, I totally missed. All right, let's see. Next one, Marvin Jones or Geronimo Allison, Standard League. I'll probably go, oh man, this is so tough. I'm going to go with Marvin Jones still. It's close though. Sammy Watkins or Nelson Aguilar in a PPR. I would go with Aguilar. Ryan Fitzpatrick or Deshaun Watson. That's Deshaun Watson, hands down. Not even close. Browns or Lions. I'm guessing this is a defensive question. I would go with the Browns defense. I don't trust the Lions defense at all. I mean, the Lions defense, what they're going to do well, it seems like they're going to take after what New England used to do and taking away the number one option. But the Browns, I mean, or the Cowboys don't really have that. And that's why I don't know how the Lions defense stacks up against their team. I just see that I see Ezekiel Elliott running all over the Lions today. And there's some of you who have asked me, I missed the DFS episode this week and I'm sorry, dealing with all that stuff with my dog. Sorry about that, but a lot of people have asked me my lock of the week. I didn't have a chance to dig into DFS the way I would want to this week, but I will say that I think Ezekiel Elliott is probably my lock of the week. I just don't see any way that the Lions defense even gets close to stopping that kid. They're without Ezekiel Anza. That's going to affect the passing game more, but I just feel like Elliott is the play. I can't get away from him this week. Kenny Stills, Larry Fitzgerald, or Doug Baldwin? Oof, man. Stills is really close. I might go Stills here because I haven't moved him up basically because we were waiting on the whole Devontae Parker news, and knowing that Devontae Parker is out, it raises Kenny Stills' ceiling just a little bit because his role doesn't really change that much with Parker out of the lineup, but it gives me a little bit more touchdown upside with Kenny Stills. So I'm going to bump him up. And it's probably going to be ahead of Doug Baldwin just because, again, I like Baldwin, but the risk is there. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's not. Bilal Powell or Alex Collins? Alex Collins, easy. Let's see. Gordon or Nelson? All right, so Josh Gordon or Jordy Nelson. Man, this is tough. So Anthony, what I would probably do, I would probably go Josh Gordon here just because I don't think either of them come without any risk. Like, I think that there's still risk with Jordy Nelson, even though he's playing out of the slot more than he has in years past, and more than, he did in weeks past, I should say, because him in the slot with Martavis Bryant and Amari Cooper on the perimeter, it's going to open things up for him. So I do like Nelson. He's a better floor play. Like, if you're looking for someone who's going to give you a 5-point floor in standard leagues, I think Jordy Nelson's probably going to do that. But if you're looking for someone to potentially win you the week, I'm going to go Josh Gordon. I just feel like that team is missing playmakers and they need to use him more than they want to admit. So Josh Gordon should see a few deep balls in this game. Let's see. Standard flex, Sterling Shepard, Kenyon Drake, or Sony Michel. That is tough, man. That's really tough. I'm going to struggle with this one just because I like both Drake and Shepard. I probably like Shepard more, but I always lean towards the guaranteed touch running backs. I don't know if we can say that Kenyon Drake is guaranteed touches, though, after looking at last week, what was it, 5 carries that he got? So, man, I might go Sterling Shepard here. It's really close. Kenny Golladay or Boyd in a PPR, I'd go Golladay. Rivers or Big Ben? I'll go Rivers. I think Roethlisberger is a really good play. I think I have him as my number 7 quarterback because the Ravens defense isn't terrible, but Ben Roethlisberger at home is really good. But Rivers against that defense without Richard Sherman, like even with Richard Sherman on the field, that San Francisco defense has allowed 8 passing touchdowns through the first 3 weeks. So missing Sherman against those wide receivers, like I just don't see any way that he does well. I mean, or that he struggles. So I think Rivers is the play. Aguilar or Davis? Aguilar for sure. Fournette? Yeah, I talked about Fournette at the top, man. Like, if you have Fournette, play him. All right, let's see. I can get to a few more before we get out of here. Let's see. Michael Crabtree or Geronimo Allison? I would play Crabtree. I think Crabtree has a really good week, guys. I just think the matchup is really well suited for him. Him and Joe Hayden, he should be able to handle Joe Hayden. That's basically how I feel about that. Hayden's like I don't want to say has been, but he kind of is. Callaway or Ginn? I think Ginn's going to start losing snaps to both Cameron Meredith and Traquan Smith. So Ginn is kind of like that. He's like that wide receiver who's like touchdown or bust. His matchup this week against Eli Apple is not a bad one at all. So I'm probably going to go with Ginn just because Callaway's matchup isn't as good as people think. Like the Raider cornerbacks have been pretty good. Like Rashawn Melvin is actually a really good cornerback, and I think people are overlooking that. And then you have Gary and Conley on the other side of the field, who is a sophomore. He didn't play much. He didn't play his rookie year due to injuries off the field stuff, but he's looked pretty good in his limited action. He was a first-round pick last year, so I'm not in love with Callaway this week like some people are. I could be wrong on that, but I just don't see it. Eli Manning, Ryan Fitzpatrick, or Tannehill? I'd play Eli Manning this week. Of those 3 options. I want to be all right. So Eli Apple's out. Good call. So I mean that upgrades the matchup even more for Ted Ginn. So that means BW Webb. I didn't realize Apple was announced out again for this week, but thank you for the heads up on that, Kevin. Appreciated. That's what happens when I'm doing these while all the stuff's being announced. But no, I do think that. So the BW Webb is the one who really struggled against Will Fuller last week. So you could see Ted Ginn have a touchdown again. So I'm sticking with the Ginn call. But definitely it helps upgrade his matchup knowing that Eli Apple is out. Michael Crabtree or T.Y. Hilton in a half PPR? I would go with T.Y. Hilton. Again, I do like Crabtree, but I'm playing Hilton. Again, the only way that the Colts move the ball is through the air, and Hilton's going to be a big part of that. Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson, or John Brown? You guys' questions are not getting easier. I can tell you that. I'm probably going to go Allen Robinson here. The target share has been there for him. They need a confidence builder for this passing game, and if they can't get it done against the Bucs this week, then there's real problems with the Bears because their offense hasn't been able to do anything. Golladay, again, the Dallas cornerbacks, the game plan, what are they doing this week? Which side of them are we going to see? I think Galladay's a fine play, but I would prefer Allen Robinson. Sammy Watkins or Fitzgerald PPR? I would go with Watkins here. I mean, just because like Larry Fitzgerald, we've seen the floor. We know that he's playing at less than 100%. I don't know why they played him last week. It made no sense playing through a hamstring injury. It's never going to work out well. The matchup isn't great or anything like that. So I'm going to play it safe here. I'm just going to play the healthy player in Sammy Watkins. Connor Baldwin, full PPR. I'd play Connor. Definitely Connor. I have him as a top 10 running back play this week. Doug Baldwin, John Brown, Matt Breida. Pick 2. All right, so leaving one of those guys out. I'd leave Matt Breida out. Again, John Brown's the must of the 3 just because he's healthy. Baldwin comes with some risk with the knee. Breida comes with some risk with the knee. But like I said it before, and I'll say it again about Matt Breida. What they were saying throughout the week, some of the comments, it felt like he wasn't going to play. And I know he trended in the right direction, but this is a game where I don't think San Francisco has a prayer against the Chargers. Like, I think the Chargers offense is just going to put up points like right from the get-go. And then they might, like, I see the 49ers saying, why are we going to have Breida out there in a game that we don't need him to play? We're not going to win this game. Let's just take it easy. And they pull him. That's why I'm approaching with a lot of caution when it comes to him this week. But man, you guys are awesome. I appreciate you guys all showing up for the Q&A. We have fun with this every Sunday. We've made it open to the public, and to see more than 5,000 of you guys in here this week, it means a lot. We definitely appreciate it. Hopefully you guys learned something that you didn't know before you came into the stream. That's always the goal. So yeah, make sure you guys enter that giveaway. If you guys missed the top of the show, we are giving away a Michael Thomas signed Saints jersey. Literally, it's free. Like, it's not costing you anything to enter. All you have to do is go to fantasypros.com/jersey giveaway. I believe they're going to put a link in the chat for you guys to see that in just 1 second. But yeah, thank you guys as always. And until next time, lights out.